Jim, as you know, being in this business for a long time and having your own business, a lot of times you feel like you're out there on your own. And there is so much information that is fed to us, whether it's online or, in a variety of different means that you just don't know who to trust.
Mm.
And so when we built this association, we wanted to do it with reputable, credible partners that provide the education to our members through a way that people now can come to us, can trust that we provide on the cutting edge of what's happening in this segment of the fitness industry so that our members don't have to feel like they're out there on an island.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to Masters in Fitness Business Podcast, brought to you by Association of Fitness Studios and Succeed Fitness Business Conference. Yes, we are now the official podcast of AFS and the Succeed Fitness Business Conference. That you can find more information at afsfitness.com and succeed with afs.com. And that was Josh Leve, who is the CEO and founder of AFS. And the guy is bright, but he also has such detailed knowledge of the fitness industry. And I don't mean just knowledge of talking to people. I'm talking about numbers, facts, statistics, based on the in-depth survey that they do every year. And this guy is unique in that he grew up in the fitness industry. His father, Chuck, helped start the URSA conference. And so he grew up working at URSA and worked there all the way up until the time that he started the Association of Fitness Studios. So he comes from a business background, and that unique perspective allows him to dive in and really help studio owners, studio fitness owners succeed. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with Josh Leve. Okay. All right. What's up, everybody, and welcome to Masters in Fitness Business Podcast, where you get to stand on the shoulders of giants. And today I have a giant coming to you in the form of Josh Leve, the head of Association of Fitness Studios, our new partner, the official podcast of Association of Fitness Studios from Chicago. Welcome to the show, Josh.
Thank you. Good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
I'm thrilled to have you on. I've been trying to get you for a long time, so I'm glad to have you here. And I know we just rolled out the announcement for our partnership. And then you started, last year was your first year for the Succeed Conference. So you want to share with the listeners a little bit about what you guys do to help studio owners and how Success Conference plays into that?
Yeah, so a couple things. So we started the association side of the business about 6-7 years ago, back in 2013. And as an association for us, it's important to understand, what an association does. So when you think associations in the fitness industry, a lot of people too come to mind. You have URSA and you have IDEA. And so when you think of URSA and you think of IDEA, you think of their conventions and their trade shows and their expos and the fitness business that they offer there, but for two very distinct groups, right? URSA does it for the big box health clubs, a lot of the franchise groups, and a lot of the big guys like 24-Hour Fitness and Planet Fitness and things that are all things big box, and IDEA is very much focused on the fitness professional as well. For us, when we built this association, we wanted to make sure we were very niche, very targeted. And we built an association specifically for fitness studio owners, managers, operators, whether they are part of a franchise, whether they are independently owned, whether it's an independent contractor who believes that they are a business owner, who is a business owner, working within a studio or within a health club. And then for all those trainers, coaches, instructors out there that have the dream of opening up their own business, giving them the support, vehicles, and mechanisms that they didn't have access to before underneath a very credible, trusted umbrella, such as an association such as ourselves, because we have relationships in the industry with every single major certifying organization, about 70 other equipment companies, tech companies, software, you name it. It all provides the benefits along with the education that we bring into the fold from the research that we do, from the mentorship programs that we offer, from the webinars that we produce. Just an entire suite of information that provides our members with the ability to run a successful fitness studio, grow a successful fitness studio, and really thrive in this industry. Because Jim, as you know, being in this business for a long time and having your own business, a lot of times you feel like you're out there on your own. And there is so much information that is fed to us, whether it's online or, in a variety of different means that you just don't know who to trust.
Mm.
And so when we built this association, we wanted to do it with reputable, credible partners that provide the education to our members through a way that people now can come to us, can trust that we provide on the cutting edge of what's happening in this segment of the fitness industry so that our members don't have to feel like they're out there on an island. And so that, in essence, is what the Association of Fitness Studios does. And it's for any studio that's 2,000 square feet, 1,000 square feet, 6,000 square feet, anybody that's out there running their own business that doesn't consider themselves a big box health club is a right type of person or business to become an AFS member. And so when you talk about that side of the business, there's the association side. And of course, you can find all this information online at afsfitness.com. But as I started, when you think of URSA and you think of IDEA, you think of their conventions and you think of their trade shows. And so it was important to us after 5 years in business to launch our own major convention and expo. And that is our Succeed conference, which happens every year. It's an annual event, a major annual event. In 2020, it's happening April 30th to May 3rd. It's happening in Southern California in Irvine. Our website is succeedwithafs.com. And it's our opportunity to bring together really the titans, the influencers, the best of the best at our conference, along with our members, along with the people that just want to attend an event to network with the best, to get the business education that we provide over a course of 3 days. That is really an event completely tailored to a fitness studio or gym owner, because we do things very differently. It's not a rotating stage of speakers. You're not going and listening to one person, then providing you their insight and you trying to figure out how that works into your business. I mean, we do 40 different speakers, over 40 different sessions, various learning styles, opportunities to really work with the speakers in workshops, panel environments, and just 3 days of having a good time. And so that event was really an extension of our association that was really critical, because people have been asking us, when are you guys going to do an event? And as an association, that's really what we want to be known for as well, is to provide that non-biased, credible information on where the industry is going, what are the trends, research-based knowledge that all of our members come to appreciate and take advantage of being aligned with us.
Yeah, and I was at the inaugural convention, and it was very well done, and there's not a lot of resources out there for independent studio owners. If you have a franchise, then you have the support of the franchise. If you're a big box, you have the support of corporate. But if you're independently owned studio, you don't have a lot of support. So the materials, the education, the resources that you guys provide are really invaluable to studio owners, because they don't have that to fall back on. So, and then I know there's aren't a lot of fitness business conferences out there. There's less than a handful, and some of them are not successful.
Yeah.
So, what makes your guys' conference, even though it's only been one, but it was really well done, it was well attended, and I did have a good time. I have to tell you, the hotel is amazing. Yeah. Irvine is amazing. So, what makes yours so different, and how's it more successful than the other ones?
It really comes down to one thing. I'll back up a little bit. I was watching a show this weekend all about Walt Disney, and you might be asking, well, how's Walt Disney impact a fitness convention? Well, what it was talking about is how he built his empire and what Disney does within their theme park experience to provide their guests with something that resonates and they leave wanting to come back more and more and more. And the one thing that they focused on is experience and making sure that the moment somebody walks in your doors, and this is true for anybody in business themselves, Jim, as a fitness business owner or studio owner, equipment is equipment, right? Conventions are conventions. at the end of the day, the experience that your guests have, that your members have, that your attendees have at your event is something that has to be so heightened that they leave wanting to tell their friends. And so when we took on the role of launching a major convention and expo, we looked at it from the perspective of how do we do this in a way that the attendees come and know that this isn't a one-off. This isn't something attached to another convention in its second nature. It's not the big show. How do we really make this experience in this event for somebody that is doing everything they can off on their own, and they're living their passion, running their own studio? They might have had a significant amount of success. They might be just looking to start. They might be middle of the road. But how do we create this experience for them that they come and they feel like this is the event for them, for their business? And that's really kind of what we took to heart. And when we started planning it, we just tried to figure out, we did a ton of research to try to see, what others are doing and how can we be different. So everything from the meals that we provided, when you come and you're going to be fed, to the education, bringing in experts from all over the industry, from people that are in the same shoes as our members and the attendees, being able to really network and get to know not only the attendees, but the speakers. We heard so much that, I attend these other conventions and they're huge. There's thousands of people there and I have no opportunity to talk to the presenter. There's just no way. We can be nimble because we bring at this time, our first event, several hundred people. And so while we will grow, there are a lot of opportunities to really get to know the educators there, which was a main differentiator for us. And just to come and have fun. And really, we understood, and I mentioned this previously, that people learn in a variety of different ways, right? There's people that attend a conference and they don't like to tell everybody their story. They like to kind of sit in the back and take notes and figure out what they're going to use and apply when they get back to their business on Monday. So not everybody likes to be outgoing, and some people sit in the back. And so we understood that, and so we created a variety of different learning styles, whether it's through a panel, whether it's through a roundtable, whether it's just breakout sessions, whether it's opportunities to connect with the speakers, different ways for people to really engage with our audience, with the other attendees, so that the learning experience, again, that word experience, is so much more heightened because it's so much more personalized to you and where you are. And so we did that at our first event, and then we're taking it another step further at our event in 2020, where we're actually breaking down the attendees on our first day based off of where they are in their business. And they're going to get education, roundtable advice, workshops with other attendees, and major influencers in the industry are going to be teaching to people based off of where they are in their business, how many locations they have, how long they've been in business, their profitability. So it's really an event unlike anything else, but a major convention a la URSA, a la IDEA, but specifically for fitness studio owners and gym owners and those that are looking to start their own business.
Well, I can speak firsthand. I had a great experience while I was there. And now
Yep.
that you say that, it makes sense. And one of the key events for me was that social right before the keynote. You had Todd Durkin as a keynote, who was a great keynote. I mean, if you aren't fired up after listening to Todd Durkin, then you don't have a heartbeat. But the social before that was really, really cool. And I had a great time. So, and I think that's a great idea of stratifying the participants, because then you can dive a little bit further into what they need, so they can go straight for what they need and kind of ignore the rest. So I think that's a great idea. But I want to unpack you for a second, because I know you kind of grew up in this business. At least that's what I've heard from some people that I know in the industry. So was your father the founder of URSA?
He is the founder of the URSA trade show.
Okay, gotcha.
He created the URSA trade show. He was URSA's first employee. It's a long story, but I'll keep it very brief. Basically, him and John McCarthy are kind of the two that really kind of shifted the way that the modern trade show and association works. I mean, there was other associations before that. My grandfather actually started an association called the National Court Clubs Association back when it was tennis clubs and racquetball clubs were huge. That ended up merging with URSA. URSA wanted to bring on a chairman, a president. That's when they found John McCarthy. John McCarthy hired my father to come in and said, I think we should have one of those trade show things. Can you build me one? And he said, yeah, I'll give it a shot. And so, they started with about the size that Succeed was, our very first one earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, grew it into the behemoth that it is today. And so, I've grown up in this industry. I've never got my certification. I've never trained. I've always been on the business side of things. So I've run big box health clubs in the Chicago market downtown for almost a decade. So I know the ins and outs of what it means to run a successful fitness business. I've turned around different facilities. Oh my gosh, I've worked with a variety of my own trainers that started their own studios and mentored them. So I understood the business from the inside out,
Yeah.
and that's something that you don't really get a lot of times. Somebody comes from the world of business to understand the fitness business. I mean, you see it a lot, even in the vendor world, where a lot of times the vendors, somebody will leave who has a keen understanding of the fitness industry, and somebody else will come in from a business side of things that isn't from the fitness industry, and things don't really run the same. It's a very unique market that I think people are starting to catch on, especially the tech industry. But going back to my story, that's where it started. So I grew up working the URSA trade shows on my spring breaks. I knew the ins and outs of how associations worked, and going back 10 years where the idea kind of stemmed, maybe more than 10 years now, I was working, in the fitness industry. I was managing clubs, and I was managing a team of almost 30 personal trainers, yoga instructors. I mean, it's a 50,000 square foot big box club, and trainers were leaving and they were thinking of starting their own studio. We're talking 10 years ago, before the Orange Theories, before this whole studio boom came up. And I just remember thinking, like, my goodness, could this segment of the industry benefit from an URSA type facility or an URSA type trade show? And that's kind of where the brainchild, was created. And ultimately we were able to leverage major supporters at the beginning, the American Council on Exercise and Sports and Fitness Insurance and Spry Products. And then it just kind of grew from there and snowballed. And, I was talking to an investor, not an us, but just an investor in the industry, who was kind of a mentor of mine at the beginning. And he's kind of stayed close to what we've been doing. And we talked a few months ago, and he said, Josh, when we talked 10 years ago, he goes, I never would have believed that the studio market in the industry would have exploded like it did. And kudos to you for, seeing that trend. I said, yeah, I guess we caught a wave, and, it just continued to go. He said, you could say that, or you could say that you had the foresight to understand where the industry was going, and you built what was needed. And I said, yeah, that sounds a lot better. let's go with that one, because that's exactly what it was. I looked into my crystal ball and I knew exactly where things were going to go. But in business, sometimes you gotta be lucky too. So we've been fortunate. The industry continues to grow, and the research that we do, it shows no sign of slowing down either.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. I think that carries a lot of weight, because it shows that you came from a legitimate background on how to build a nice, solid foundation. And I think it's a plus that you come from a business side, not the trainer side, because that is the shortfall for most people that start their own studio or buy into a franchise, is that they know fitness, but they don't know business. And as soon as you open up a training studio, you're no longer a trainer, you're a business owner. Even if you're a one person show, you're a business owner. So then you have to make that shift. We talk about that a lot on this show, but I think that's really, really important to know that, yes, you're a good trainer, but you have to be just as good a business person as you are a trainer if you want your studio to be successful.
100%. Yeah. I mean, a good friend of mine and yours, Rick Mayo, said it perfectly when we were talking years ago. He's like, the moment you put your name on a lease, the moment that you go into business for yourself, you have just transitioned from John or Jane Smith, the trainer, the coach, the instructor, to John or Jane Smith, the entrepreneur.
Hmm.
right? And that comes with a completely different set of skills that you are probably trained for.
Hmm.
And so I always tell people, I tell our members, you have to run your business skill set parallel with that of your fitness skill set. You need to invest the same, sometimes more on the business side of things, and
Hmm.
there's gurus out there that tell you to, scale back your training and focus on the business a lot more. And, I'm of the opinion that you train for the love of training and for how you make your clients feel and the results that they see. So I don't fully believe in you have to give it all up, but there absolutely has to be a balance there that works for you and for your business, so that you can find that work life balance and you can focus on growing your business but also doing what you love as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you're exactly right, Jim. I mean, the moment that you put that name on the lease, it's a whole brand new ball game. And you talked about Todd Durkin and Rick Mayo, two giants in this industry, and they will be flat out honest with you and said, when we opened our businesses years and years ago, we didn't know what the heck we were doing. I mean, they've told me all the time, we wish your association was around when we first started because it would have alleviated a lot of headaches. But back then, you could literally guess, figure things out on the go. Oh, this didn't work. Let's
Hmm.
tweak things here and there. In today's competitive landscape, that is not an option anymore. I mean, Rick will be the first one to tell you. Every time I ask him, I'm like, how many competitors do you have around you now? And he's like, oh, we're up to like 40 or
Yeah.
something like that, right? In the Atlanta area. I mean, there's so much competition happening. There's so much money being infused into this segment of the industry that there's going to be disruptors all over the place. And we talked about it just a little bit ago. What differentiates yourself? What are your onlys, as you like to call it? What are you the only fitness studio in your market that does differently than anybody else? Equipment is equipment. If there was a personal training studio on one side of the street and a personal training studio on the other side of the street, how is a consumer to choose you over the competition,
Hmm.
right? Equipment's equipment, but it comes back to the experience. So
Yeah.
that's really what it's all about in today's day and age, and how you make people feel. And people will know, people are smart, especially now with everything available at our fingertips online, to be able to realize when somebody's being shortchanged, when something's cheap, when something's dirty, when something just isn't upheld. And consumers have too many options today to be
Hmm.
able to be like, that didn't work. Didn't really build a solid relationship with anybody there. I'm going to go to this Orange Theory,
Right.
because that's a brand that I know in my head and they have a lot of money. And, some of my friends have talked about it. So we're getting into a whole new thing as far
Yeah.
as content marketing
Yeah.
and stuff.
But I think that differentiator is important because if you don't have that, then you're competing on price. And if
Sure.
you're competing on price, then it's a race to the bottom. Then you become a
Yep.
commodity and not something special. So I think that's important. But let's dive into that. So because I know you have that in-depth survey every year, and it's really, really impressive. I mean, when you talk about drilling down to the numbers, you drill down into the numbers like no one I've ever seen before in this industry. So let's talk about that. So I want to start with what is some of the biggest shortcomings that you see people jumping into this industry for the first time have?
Yeah. So three things. Number one, not knowing the correct size of facility to open. We have found, and this has been consistent for the 4 years, 5 years that we've been doing this report, a lot of people don't know how big to go when they first start, and we found there's a sweet spot. It's really 2,500 square feet and a little bit less is a much better size to start with than that 2,500 to 5,000 square feet, mainly because there's an opportunity to really utilize all the square footage that you have in a much better way and then kind of grow into that in the future. So we see a lot of people make that mistake, open up a 3,200 square foot facility, which might work, but we've seen the profitability between those two sizes be almost identical. So we always say start smaller,
Hmm.
and grow your profitability there and really start utilizing all the space that you have. So that's number one. Number two is marketing. I mean, if we survey our members, like you said, all the time, marketing lead generation is always the number one thing that people want more of. I look at that and I say, sure, that's true, especially if you're first starting out. It makes sense. You need warm bodies through the door. But it's really, what are you doing with them once they come in? What's your referral strategy? What's your retention strategy? what's the experience people are having. Again, it comes back to the differentiation. So we surveyed our members, and really the audience that takes our surveys. And it's over 1,000 people that take these every year. Just one survey. We do a variety throughout the course of the year. And we asked, do you have a marketing plan? And over 70% of people that responded said no. I mean, there's no plan as
Hmm.
far as where my leads are going to come from. And when we ask, well, what are you currently doing? It's always the top thing. Word of mouth referrals, is the way to do it. And social media is a close second, but social media is getting so much harder every single time. There's so much
Hmm.
more out there, as far as Facebook changing their algorithms all the time. So,
Hmm.
we always say look internally. So that's a second one as far as marketing. Um, and then the third one that really jumps out the most is the number of individuals out there that seek to open up their own studio. I mean, I think that's something that we're always blown away with every year. Every year we hear people, oh, the industry, there's something called the S curve theory. And this can be relatable in any industry. The S curve theory is really just an S. And there's this rapid acceleration that happens in any industry. And then at the top is kind of like a slow decline. And I believe that's kind of what's happening to the big box clubs, where in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, big boxes were opening a lot more frequently than they are now. Sure, they're still opening up, but not at the rate that they were. Fitness studios on their end are on that rapid acceleration where they're popping up all over the place. And so, of course, now as it's become mainstream, people are like, oh, it's going to be cannibalized. These are going to start dying off.
Hmm.
And it does happen. I'd be ignorant to think that that's not going to continue to happen. However, what is still out there and true and shows that there's a lot of growth potential is that almost 40% of every single fitness professional that takes our survey that doesn't have a studio wants to open up their own studio within the next 2 years. So you extrapolate the data, there's almost 300,000 fitness professionals, personal trainers, reported by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. When you factor in group X, Pilates, yoga, cycling, you're talking 750,000 fitness professionals. Take 40% out of that, and you're looking at hundreds of thousands of trainers, coaches, instructors that have that entrepreneurial dream to get out there and start their business. So will all of them start them? Of course not. But the numbers are dramatic when you look at what could happen. In today's climate, the death of retail, there's no more Radio Shacks, there's no more Toys R Us's, there's none of these companies because of what's happened with Amazon and other
Hmm.
online retailers. It provides the perfect opportunity and breeding ground for studios to pop up all over the place. There's no overhead. You can open up a functional training studio with a credit card. Now, I don't recommend it, but you can get in business so
Mhm.
fast. And so there's that belief that if I want to take the next step in my career, the next logical step would be to open up my own studio. However, you have to also be very careful. If you're a trainer or a coach or an instructor out there working in, a different environment, whether it's a YMCA, JCC, a health club, or another studio, and you've been thinking, oh, I want to get into my own business, take a step back and think about what that really means. Are you just frustrated with your current situation? So maybe you need to move to a different location and change jobs, not so much start your own business, because all those things that we've been talking about, the marketing, the finance, the retention, the slew of other hats that you guys wear, um, maybe that's not for you. And maybe you just need to change a location, which is ultimately something the best thing for you. So there's a lot that gets put on your shoulder as a fitness business owner. But yeah, as far as the research is concerned, I mean, those are just three things that always pop out to me and popped out in our most recent 2019 report as far as, what we're seeing in the industry and where things are shifting. But there's a lot more as well that goes into these reports.
Yeah, I was talking to a client of mine today, and I found some pictures of when we first opened our first day in business, which was 5 years ago, and compare that to today. And I've aged like 10 years, I think, in those five. I had a head full of hair and no gray, and now it's just the opposite. So, but that's a great point. So I know for me, I wanted to open up my own studio. I've been in this business. Next month will be 30 years. Um, and I wanted to open up a studio a long time ago, but I didn't do it until I had to, until I was pushed far enough out of my comfort zone and said, okay, it's this or nothing.
Yeah.
So I know every trainer out there who believes they're a great trainer wants to open a studio.
Yeah.
Uh, but there are some people that, and Frank Nash and I talk about this, there are some people who are just happy being a trainer. If you're happy being a trainer, then just be a trainer and don't worry about all the other headaches that come along with owning a business. And I applaud you for that, for recognizing that, doing that. But what are some of the characteristics or some of the things that you need to know to make that jump to open a business?
Yeah, well, the number one thing is you have to know your competitive landscape. I mean, to go from the confines and the friendly environment, if you will, of being a trainer or a coach in, let's say, a big box health club for this example, everything is right there. All the equipment you can need, all the clients you could ever want.
Mhm.
I mean, they are set up so that you find success. Depending on the organization, some are setting you up for success better than others. But ultimately, everything you need is underneath that roof. Plus, your insurance is a lot of times taken care of within these
Mhm.
facilities. And so, when you ultimately decide to go out there on your own, I mean, there's so many different factors that you have to really understand and take into account, because there's not going to be somebody you can lean against. I mean, there's a lot of groups. I mean, I know the groups that you mentioned, Frank Nash and the STS, organizations like ourselves and other mastermind groups are out there to support. But really what it comes down to it, I mean, to take that leap, you just have to be prepared from a mindset perspective, from a perspective of things are not going to go as planned, right? You need to have an exit strategy. You need to understand that you got to be able to pivot if necessary. And you can do that if you own your own business. It's not so much to do in a corporate environment, but there are so many different things that ultimately happen when you decide to leave, those friendly confines and do it on your own, that sometimes you're not profitable within the first year or two or three. And how are you going to react to that? And what are you going to do if things don't go the way that you want? And ultimately, as you know, Jim, they never do. I mean, they never do. You can write it down on paper, but things change. The economy changes, the competitive landscape changes. And so, as I mentioned, the first thing, shop your competitive landscape or your competitors, see what they're doing and do it better. What's the experience you get from when you walk in the door? How are you going to differentiate yourself? What are you going to offer? What is your pricing going to be? And the other thing is, a lot of times when you're a trainer, you get your clients whispering in your ear, especially if you've been there for a while and you found success, why don't you go and do this thing on your own? And it's like, yeah, I want to, but you got to keep in mind that your clients also are coming to you because of the convenience factor. A lot of times they were at that gym or that studio before, maybe not, but it's easy for them to get to there. So if you go and open up your own brick and mortar location on the other side of town, if you live in a climate where it changes and it's not easy for your client to get to that health club anymore, and they've got to travel across town, that's not very easy, and so you got to be pretty sure that people are going to follow you. And even if they do follow you, what happens if things happen and they don't continue to train, they move, or anything could happen. They might say they're going to follow you one day and they don't the next. So being really sure location is key. And then of course the marketing side of things is key as well. But I mean, those are some of the things that when you first get started, there's going to be a lot of variables that factor into it, that you got to be really sure what you're going to do. Real estate and negotiating a lease is huge, as far as making sure you get and understand what's part of the lease, so what you do and don't have to pay for. I mean, all these things factor into these business decisions that you have to make, and if you don't have a business background, these are things that are very foreign. So finding a mentor, finding, somebody or a group that you can really lean on to assist with these decisions is key. And that's what we do as an association. That's what other groups do really, really well too.
Yeah, I was watching a World War II documentary about, and they were talking about the battles in the Pacific, and one of the generals said, "No battle plan survives contact with the enemy." because something always happens or changes that you have to pivot on the fly. Yeah, those are great points. And then if you don't know, which a lot of fitness business, when they first open, they don't ask for help. And that's where you guys come into handy. That's where mastermind groups come into to play. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to be the dumbest person in the room. If you don't know, ask. It will save you a lot of money, a lot of headache, and maybe even save your ass.
Yeah.
So
That's a good point. I love that saying, don't ever be the smartest person in the room, because if you are, you're in the wrong room.
right.
I think you really are, because you're not going to learn anything from that. And
Yeah.
and ask questions, and it's the only way you can do it. I mean, nobody knows everything, especially in this industry. There's people out there that can help and want to help.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So then let's shift to the established fitness business owner. What are some of the pitfalls that you see with them?
Yeah. So for those that, there's really three growth stages. I mean, there's more than that, but we can break it down. Those that are just starting out or looking to get into the business. There's that middle of the road, those that have been in business for a while that are frustrated, they're looking to grow, looking to thrive. And then there's the high achievers, the high level people that have figured it out, looking to start a second location and stuff. And there's a little bit of, in between here and there. But for those individuals that are really kind of middle of the road, that are looking to grow, that's really the time that you need to look internally. I believe, because you have a solid membership base, there are ways and things that you can do that get the word out, leverage the members that you have. There's something that I like to call the 5 T's of word of mouth marketing. And it's really something tried and true that any business owner can do. But really, for those that are looking to kind of make the next step, you have to go out and you have to find your brand ambassadors. These are the individuals within your business that love what you do. They've seen results from what you do, and they want to share that with others. So how do you leverage these people? We did some education when we were first starting out as an organization. And there was a woman that attended one of our shows. We tacked it onto another conference. And she did this word of mouth marketing in a way that she didn't even realize she was really doing it. She knew what she was doing, but she didn't take the 5 T's and break them down. But what she did was she found her brand ambassador. She started a boot camp on a Saturday morning and ultimately grew it into a fitness studio that she created, a brick and mortar. And what she did was those 6, 7 women that started with her boot camp on Saturday, she made them her brand ambassadors. And it was a women's only studio that she started. She created t-shirts for all of them. Her studio was called Fit Mama, FITMAMA. And their t-shirt was a pink shirt with black letters that says, "I'm a fit mama," and then their website on the back. And these women were proud to wear this shirt all over town. And she built in a special way for these brand ambassadors of hers to refer people. And they got a significant discount on their memberships and on their pricing packages and things like that, or on their training packages. And anybody they refer, they got significant discounts from there. And they just loved what they were doing because they believed so much in that message. So the 5 T's of word of mouth marketing really follow that. First you have to find your talkers, the people that find the results or have had results from you that want to speak about what they've done. And this is easy because any studio owner knows there are people that you see every day, a few times a week, whatever it is, that share a lot more with you than you maybe want, certain clients, and so there are people that have seen results with you that if you had to hire one of your clients, this would be the person you would, because they believe so much in what you do in your business. So those are your talkers.
Mm-hmm.
Once you find your talkers, you want to give them tools to talk about, right? So you want to make sure that they have something such as a business card with a free week trial or something like that. Give them the tools that they need. And then the third T is the topics. You want to make sure they have topics to actually go out there and talk about, to ensure that there's always something fresh and relevant going on within your business. And then the last two are, you want to make sure that you're taking part, that you're really out there as the face of the business. Everything trickles down from the very top. So this is just being present and making sure you're doing this with your clients, that you are leading from the top, making sure that you know every single one of your clients' names, their birthdays, their kids' birthdays, their anniversaries, so that you can really customize the experience to people when they come in. I was talking to a member of ours who's actually a speaker at our event, Robert Linkle. Great guy. What he does every single night is he takes 5 minutes and sends a text message to every single one of his clients that he had that day. And he simply says, "Hey, John. Hey, Sally. Great session today. Thought you made a lot of progress. Really appreciate it. Can't wait to see you next week. Keep up the great work." Every single night. I mean, that is what differentiates the best from the others. And he is, again, one of those high level performers. So to get to that high level, you got to invest the time and the effort and the energy. And then the last T is simply tracking, understanding where your leads are coming from and ensuring that you know what is working and what's not. Because you can put out a marketing program, and if it doesn't come back and yield the results that you want, you got to tweak it. You got to figure out what's working and what's not. So, that is, you could spend all the money in the world on marketing, at the end of the day. And I'm not saying you don't. You want to invest a little bit. Typically, it's a certain percentage off your total revenue, around 3-4% of your revenue as far as what you want to spend on marketing. But you got to spend it the right way. And you have to do it strategically. And it's always easier to do a variety of different things internally, leverage your clients, provide that experience, and have them bring their friends and stuff like that. Bring a buddy month, is just one idea. I can go off on a slew of other ones that I know our members have done that have been really, really successful. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. The other thing I think is really, really important is if you have a monthly newsletter, focus on building the list of people that it goes out to. And you can do that in a variety of different ways. You can, go to different events and expos and exhibit. Anytime you meet somebody, put them on a list. Your list should become a gold mine for other businesses, because you want to figure out a way to barter that with local businesses. I know a studio, and I'll give one last nugget of information because I just think this one's golden. One of our members did that they shared with our audience is that they were able to build their list of people that received their monthly newsletter to a few thousand. It was a pretty good number of their local community. And what they ultimately decided to do was to go to all these dry cleaners in their area. And we all know there's dry cleaners on every corner in an urban market, especially even in the rural areas, they're all over. And they bartered advertising space in their newsletter, their fitness newsletter for their studio, with the dry cleaners. And in return, the dry cleaners put cardboard discs around every single one of the hangers that the people would come in and pick up their dry cleaning, that provided a free week pass to their studio. And in return, the studio provided them free advertising space in their newsletter because they had a large enough list that that message could get out there to a lot more people. And I mean, talk about a brilliant way with no money spent to drive more people into your business.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are the things that those people that are in the middle need to really figure out what they can do to differentiate, to be creative, and to drive more people into their business.
Yeah, I think that's gold. That's a great way to send out mailers without mailing them. Just
Yeah,
have the dry cleaners do it for you. That's
exactly.
that's fantastic.
And the thing is, you can do that. It doesn't have to be a dry cleaners.
Uh-huh.
I love giving out free advice. But for those listening in, I don't mind. There's another way to do it too. If you don't want to do the dry cleaners, you can go into any business in which the clientele shopping there would be ideal for your business. So a running store, or any type of store that has your clientele there. I know there was another member that created little stickers and went to a running shoe store, and anytime a pair of shoes was sold, they got a sticker that went right on the receipt or on the box of shoes that says, "Bring this in for a free week at this local studio." Same exact thing,
Yeah.
they can do. You're going to client or to businesses that have the same clientele that would want to come to your studio. So those are different things you do, but you barter with them. If you don't have a list, give them a table and have them come 2-3 times a week and set up a little shop, a little table with their products and services during your peak times, and provide them that exposure there. And then in return, they'll give you something as well. So a lot of different things you can do.
Yeah, that's gold. And I know tracking is important too, because one of the biggest things that we get our return on investment is banners. And our
Yeah.
banners cost us $160 each. And we have a tremendous amount of drive-by traffic. And so we put it up, and I can't tell you, we average probably 8 to 12 new clients a month off those banners, So
Yeah.
that's well worth it. I mean, that's a
Totally.
no-brainer, and it's a lot cheaper than Facebook.
Yeah.
So, all right. So that's for the established owners. So, quick question then, on the Succeed conference, I know you guys are all about the numbers. So, of like, who are the people that are coming to Succeed?
Mhm.
Majority, are they established fitness business owners, people who are thinking about opening the studio? Who comes to the Succeed conference?
It's really everybody. Ultimately, what we found is a majority of the people that are there are established fitness studio or gym owners. These are individuals that mostly independently own, although we do have a bunch of people that come that have their own franchise, whether it's an F45 or an Orange Theory, or even some Curves or a 9 Round or Soul Cycle. They're one-offs that come because even in Anytime Fitness, that might not feel like they have all the full support of their franchise, franchisor, if you will. That it's all we do, day and night. That is our focus, and so a majority of the people that attend our event are independent. Some franchises that come that are just looking for a variety of things. One, they're looking to grow their business because you can always get new ideas from others that are in the exact same shoes as you. So you're not going to come to our event and be surrounded by people that don't have the same passions as you. You're not going to come, and it's not going to be a secondary event within a major event. This is an entirely focused event specific for studio owners and gym owners. And so that right there is a differentiator for us. We're not trying to be in wellness or this is for studio owners and for gym owners. And then, the other thing about that we really are doing as an association, as this is our major convention and expo that we continue to grow, you are going to rub shoulders with the best in the industry. I mean, we send out VIP invites to the best of the best, whether it's the Rick Mayos, whether it's the Todd Durkins, whether it's the people in the industry that are really influencing where things go. And we invite them in to participate in the educational sessions, to come to the VIP receptions, to really come and be a part of what this event is going to be all about now and in the future. And so that's really important to us, is to get the influencers there as well, so that people understand that this isn't just something that I'm thinking about going. This is something that I mark on my calendar every year because of how important it is to be there and understand where the industry is going, understand the trends, and of course get the business education that we're known for in the industry. And then of course the other one is those trainers, those coaches, those instructors out there that, again, we've talked about today, that are thinking about it, and it's a big number of them that want to take that leap. And for us, it's important to provide them the understanding and the education that they need to understand what it's going to take. And then to also be able to participate in breakout sessions and roundtables and panels that, they can learn from people that have been there already, and to avoid the roadblocks that a lot of people at the convention that have been in business for a while have made. This is a perfect opportunity to really leapfrog and to understand what it takes to be successful from the start. And so for those of you that are thinking about starting your own business, I couldn't think of a better event that is solely focused on where you want to go in your career than Succeed.
And I can't state how important that is to speak to those people, the leaders in the industry, because I know when I went to my first conference, I was intimidated to speak to some of those
Sure.
guys, some of those people. Like, oh, they're a big shot. They're not going to want to waste time with me. It's just the opposite. It's just the contrary. Is that they want to help.
Yeah.
They're eager to help. They're in the fitness industry, and people get in the fitness industry because they want to help people.
Yeah.
So, and those people, those VIPs, speakers, leaders in the industry are in the fitness business. They want to help people. I was shocked at how approachable they were and how generous they were with their time. Like Thomas Plummer, going to his workshop. It's like almost like a boot camp,
Yeah.
but that guy is so approachable, and I can call him up any day and talk to him.
Yeah.
Rick Mayo, Frank Nash, Tim Lyons, all those guys are really, really approachable, and they want to help. They'll be more than happy to sit down and spend time with you and share with you and help you and mentor you.
Yeah.
They are so approachable. So the fact that you have that opportunity there is so vital that you it will change your life. It will change your business if you do that. So that's a great point. So on the annual survey, are there any other statistics that jump out at you that might raise an eyebrow with some of the listeners?
Yeah, one of the things that we track within the survey is just the not only the growth potential, but even from a pricing perspective. It's interesting to note that, the number of members at each of the facilities that take our survey continues to rise, and so a lot of times what we've heard in the past is, again, this segment of the industry is going to be cannibalized from other major players, but for those members of ours that take the survey, from other people that aren't, because you don't have to be a member to take our survey, we're finding that those that are reinvesting in their education are continuing to see success. And now that's kind of a no-brainer, but it's nice to see that on paper and to
Mm.
understand that every year that we've been doing this survey, and we started back in 2020 or 2014, we're seeing growth within these fitness studios. And that's showing that what's happening in the industry is what we spoke about earlier, is the need for quality, credible fitness business education is now becoming mainstream in the minds of fitness studio and gym owners. They're understanding that I can't wing it, right? They're understanding that to be successful, I need to reinvest in my business skill set and in my business to really see the growth and the profitability that I want. So while it's a no-brainer, it's nice to see that tracking and trending in the right way. So that's always something that I look at that continues to wow me, is knowing that what we're doing, what you're doing with the podcast is working, and we're starting to make a dent as far as getting through to an industry that a lot of times, from the outside, from other industries, look at and don't fully believe in. Sometimes it's professionalism. We've had a rough time in the fitness industry over many years because of other groups and how it was back in the day, as far as what it means to be a trainer, which we're trying our darndest to shift that mindset and that mentality in today's consumer. So I mean, seeing that and seeing the success and seeing the growth in this industry is something that, for us, when we do our surveys, is a positive indicator of where things are going to continue to grow.
Yeah, I think that's really a good point, because I know when I was a trainer, I call myself a trainer geek. I learned everything that I could.
Yeah.
Went to every workshop that I could, and just ate it up with a spoon. And now that I'm a business owner, I do the same about fitness business, because you're right, fitness business is a specific niche.
Yep.
It's kind of a crossroads of two different worlds. But I was short on the business side, and I had to bring that up. So I think that's really, really important. So now going back to early in our conversation, since you're such a visionary, and can kind of see what's coming down the road, what is coming down the road? What is your 2020 vision?
Yeah, no, I'll look back in my crystal ball,
Mhm.
I wish. Ultimately, it's something that isn't relatively new, but it's something that is turning over so quickly that we can't ignore it, is technology. I think from a technology standpoint, technology is really going to infuse itself, and it's already started, in everything you do within your business. It's going to impact the programs that you offer. It's going to impact the questions that your clients or your members ask you. It's going to impact the touch points that you have with people when they're not at your studio or your gym. It's going to impact everything. And ultimately, my, you know, my goal is to educate this industry on getting ahead of that. I mean, we saw it with the Apple Watch, and that's just the start. As devices start providing more and more insight about us, about what's going on within our bodies, ultimately clients don't really go to their doctor with that, even though they probably should. A lot of times they come to you. They
Mhm.
come to their trainer and they say, hey, this is telling me X, Y, and Z. And you're going to have to be the expert in understanding what that means and build things around that. Now, we've seen it already in heart rate training, and there's a slew of heart rate training companies out there that have capitalized on this, MyZone being a big one. And, that's something that, of course, Orange Theory has then gone in and really done a fantastic job, and a
Hmm.
slew of other ones as well, to understand what it means if you're in a certain heart rate zone and how that, impacts the rate of fat loss and blah, 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 blah.
Hmm.
So that's only going to continue. We're seeing it as well on a technology side of things in the in-home fitness industry.
Yeah.
Companies like Peloton
Hmm.
are making, well, what I mean, you hear Peloton. Peloton is a worth, I don't know, some billions amount of dollars. They haven't even turned a profit yet. I don't understand how companies are valued, but yeah, it's insane that they have all this money invested, yet they still haven't turned a profit. And I was listening to a podcast actually by the founders of Peloton, and they were asking, because you created this bike and this treadmill and stuff like that, how do you see that impacting the fitness industry? And they have a specific market. They're going after the in-home fitness market. And these guys that started this business, they still go to their local studio and participate in classes, even though this is something they created, because you're serving a very different market. That market, whether it's growing a little bit or not, is the same market that happened back in the 80s when you could throw in a VHS tape of Tybo or Jane Fonda. No, I mean, it hasn't
Yeah.
really changed. I mean, you're jumping
Hmm.
on a bike, sure,
Hmm.
the instructor, and it's much more
B90X.
interactive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's immersive and stuff like that, but you're still targeting a certain market. There is always going to be a need for the consumer to want to go to a brick and mortar location. There's always going to be that need for human collaboration and touch. But technology is going to continue to try to figure out ways to better connect client, trainer, client coach, things like that, to allow the instructor, the trainer, the coach the ability to have those more significant touch points. So the technology side is something that we're going to see, popping up all over the place. And I mean, my goodness, there's a slew of other things that are going to happen. Experience-based studios, just the things that people feel from the moment they walk in
Hmm.
is going to be huge. There's a lot of tech now. People ask me a lot of times, virtual reality or augmented reality. Is that I've got my own opinions on that, but that's so far in the future. Holograms, and we're talking like sci-fi stuff now that is things that if you're in business, you don't have to worry about that stuff now. Those
Yeah.
are buzzwords that typically people will throw out that want to feel unique and different. But I mean, come on. At the end of the day, this is a service industry, right? And we're here to service the members and the clients that we have in a way that they see results. Because if they see results, the results are the best form of marketing.
Yeah. I agree. And so it's better to embrace that technology than fight against it.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, we're at my favorite part of the show, and I'm really excited because you have the most detailed knowledge of any other guest I've had on the show. So, but my first question always is what has been your most successful failure? And by that, I mean, what at the time seemed like a devastating loss that you weren't going to be able to rebound from, but you were able to take life lessons from that and use that to propel you to greater success down the road.
That is a great question. I would say one of the biggest failures that I don't know if I would call it a failure, but it was a turning point in my life. One was the loss of my business partner when I first started this association. A lot of people in business have been there before. I was actually talking to a partner of ours who went through the exact same thing, where you just have different visions of what you want your your business to look like. And ultimately, the failure wasn't so much on the business side of things, although this was early on. It was the failure to really see the future of the company in the same way, the failure to really kind of get on the same page. And, we didn't see eye to eye, and ultimately went our separate directions. I bought him out, became the sole founder and CEO of the company. And by allowing myself the ability, Bedros Keuilian, who's our keynoter at our event, talks about this all the time. And this is actually what his book is about. It's about manning up, right? And having those tough conversations and making sure that that you know when something's not working and something is failing, and you do that and you just really pivot and go from there. So the failure to have things work with him is something that I don't regret, because I don't have any regrets. I think they're all learning experiences that make you stronger and better. But that's something that I see as a failure, that we weren't able to make it work and grow this thing together. But without having that experience, after that whole thing happened, the association took off, because there was one sole voice kind of leading the growth of the industry, and we made a lot of really good hires that helped from there. So I think that was a failure that I look at as kind of the turning point in the association to kind of get it to where it is today. I think the other failure that I look at that was really a turning point in my career was a divorce that I went through early on, before I even started the association. That was something I was doing in the industry. I always knew I wanted to do something, but a lot of times you don't have the push to do
Hmm.
something, and going through that and kind of taking a step back and reassessing my life and reassessing what I wanted to do and what I have fulfillment in doing, allowed me that opportunity. I failed at, I wouldn't say I failed, but it was a marriage that failed.
Hmm.
But ultimately, that was a turning point that led me onto the course of creating this association, to meeting my now, beautiful wife, and everything from there. It just completely changed the course and the trajectory of my life. So that failure is something that I look back on as far as that failed marriage, and it was a blessing in disguise. All these things really are. And so for those that are out there that are just banging their heads against the wall, as any fitness business owner knows, any entrepreneur knows, you are not going to start a business and be good to go. You ask anybody. I mean, you can ask like the Elon Musks of the world, of the Teslas. Like, it's not easy going for them. I mean, it is a roller coaster from the moment that you decide to do this. You and a lot of people will say any entrepreneur there's some screw loose in an entrepreneur's head, right? To want to do this, because if it was easy, everybody would do it, right? And entrepreneurs have some screws loose, but they're ultimately people out there that are trying to find ways to fix things that only to them they see might be broken. And then there's a better solution for what they do. So anybody out there who's contemplating it, who's going through it right now, all I can tell you is make sure that you're doing what you need to do to invest. Know that there's people out there that can support you, and know that the more time, the energy, the more focus you put into it, the more education you put into it, the longer you can go at it, the more successful you will be later on, because you've had that success. You figured out what works, what doesn't, and you align yourself with the people that really can help you kind of get your business to where you want it to go.
That's a great answer, because I think a lot of people hesitate to have those tough conversations.
Sure.
It's usually like an employee that is not the right fit, but you say, it's good enough for now.
Yeah.
But in your gut that they're not the right person. So you avoid having that tough conversation. Then it comes
Sure.
back to bite you later on. So that's a great answer. And then divorce. I went through a divorce as well, and it stripped me of my identity.
Yep.
And so I decided to kind of rebuild myself, take it as a blank canvas, and rebuild myself the way I wanted to be, and live the life that I always wanted to live. So those are great answers. I can relate to them both. So my next question is, in your time in the fitness industry, what has been the biggest surprise that you've had to deal with that you did not see coming?
Man, what has been the biggest surprise I've had to deal with that I didn't see coming? I think the biggest surprise to me was trying to educate this segment of the industry on exactly what an association is all about. I think that we realized when we started this association that there was a lot of education that needed to happen on what associations do. I don't want to say we took it for granted, but we looked at models like IDEA and URSA and didn't fully grasp that those were associations that have been built in for 30, 40 years and were able to grow just as the industry was growing. And now we were trying to create an association to an industry, to a segment of the industry that is, like we talked about earlier, constantly fed stuff on social media that they don't know who to trust,
Mhm.
and they don't know what an association really does. And that was something that really surprised us from a business perspective of educating this. And it's still something that we're educating, just like any entrepreneur, just like you do with your business, on educating how you guys are different from somebody else. I mean, it never stops. And I think that was one of the most surprising things that I didn't fully grasp as far as when we first started our businesses, educating the people that we wanted to become members about what it means and why it's important to join an association, and that's something that, if you could look back in your crystal ball and make changes when you first started your business, I mean, that would be one of the things that we focused on, is just really continuing to educate from the start as to why we're important, and not have to play catch up. But we've definitely been able to overcome that, and we continue to tweak messaging and focus on that and align ourselves with the right organizations to spread our message and stuff. So I think that's one of the things that I found to be the most surprising. But yeah, it's different for everybody as far as where they are in their business journey. But for us, I think that was the most surprising thing that we weren't prepared for.
Yeah, and I think that's an excellent point, and I think it's ongoing. I mean, because like you said, there are so many bogus things out there that they want you to pay literally thousands of dollars and get nothing
Yeah.
in return, where they can go to AFS fitness.com and get millions of free resources that are
Yeah.
credible
Yep.
and legitimate, have been researched, backed by numbers, not some internet guru. So that's a great point. So I know you guys are the source of continuing education for tens of thousands of people, but where do you go for your personal and professional development?
Oh man, I go to my mentors. I mean, through the association, I've been so fortunate to meet people in this industry that I respect wholeheartedly. You've already named a few of them: the Rick Mayos, the Todd Durkins, the Frank Nashes, all of which are speaking at our event, or have spoken at our event. We have, when we first started this association, one of the things from a credibility standpoint that we wanted to do was build an advisory council, an advisory board of people that I knew that I could go to, that come from different, shapes and of life in the industry, outside of the industry, but to be able to bounce ideas off of them and really kind of pick their brains as far as what they're seeing in the industry. Because again, it comes back to just not being the expert in the room. Make sure you're the dumbest
Mm,
person in the room. And man, do I feel that way when I talk to our advisory council on a conference call. And I love it because
mhm.
they provide so much valuable insight uh, as far as, me growing individually as a leader and as a mentor, going out to them for advice on how we can, retweak what we want to do at our event, is ways that we might be able to shift the value proposition for members in the association, what people get when they come to our major annual conference. And so for me, it's not only just seeking out advice from our advisory council, but my mentors who are part of that advisory council. But it's also, educating myself on the trends that are happening in the industry, reading to make sure I'm on top of what I need to be educated on, to just to be a business leader, an entrepreneur, and just kind of try and do my best to stay ahead of the curve as much as possible. But the only way you stay ahead of the curve is really leveraging the advice and the insight of people that you respect and you trust.
Excellent answer. I can't stress mentors enough. We talk about it a lot on the show, only because it's so vitally important
Yeah.
if you want to continue to evolve.
Yep.
So, where can people go? Well, we already talked about it. They can go to afsfitness.com if they want to learn more. And then, what is the website for Succeed?
Yeah. The Succeed website is succeedwithafs.com. And yeah, you'll find everything on that site as far as what's happening with our annual event. You'll see highlights from the event that we had this past April. You'll see all the different speakers that are going to be there. A slew of people. I mean, you talked about them. We talked about them today: the Rick Mayos, the Frank Nash, the Tim Lyons. I mean, we've
The
got a,
Boudros.
yeah, Badris Kulian is our
Mhm.
opening keynote. We've got a keynote panel where Rick's going to be sitting on. Scott Goodiskin, the CEO of ACE, Sarah Cooperman, the CEO of SCW. I mean, and then an additional, 30, 40 speakers that are just going to be assisting and being there to provide insight and value in breakout sessions and workshops. I mean, it's honestly, and I don't say this because I run the company, but it is an event that will change your life. I mean, and we really firmly believe that, just because it is entirely tailored to this segment of the industry.
Yeah, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think especially so since you're stratifying the members or the attendees so they can get more out of their experience. I think that's great. And then I'm really excited to be teaming up with you guys. It's going to give us
Likewise.
an opportunity to grow the audience and line up some fantastic guests that I'm really excited and pumped to have on the show. So I'm really looking forward to it. And you can get all of those information. Actually, if you want to just go to afsfitness.com, you can look up the podcast right there. It'll be on the AFS website. And then you can click on the show notes and find any links that you want there. And I think that's it. Josh, thanks for taking the time to come on the show. I look forward to talking to you more and more this coming year. And I'm excited to have 2020 be a great year.
Likewise, Jim. Thanks for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Awesome, man. All right. Well, I will talk to you later.
All
Thanks
right.
again.
Sounds good.
All
Sure.
right. Yep. Yep. Bye.
Bye bye.